Niner gang, take a deep breath, because Santu Clara just woke up with the smell of major change in the air. We've got a huge move that could shake the entire NFC, a contract standoff that could turn into a full-blown nightmare, a possible reunion that would hit this fan base right in the heart, and one quiet signing that might be telling us way more than people realize. Excited? So smash that like button, subscribe right now, and stay with me to the end, because one of these stories might reveal what the 49ers are really planning for 2026. And the big question is this: curious? Are the NY-ners loading up for another Super Bowl run? Or are they starting a transition nobody wanted to admit was coming? Let's start with the kind of news that sends a message to the whole league. The 49ers are not thinking small. San Francisco has reportedly agreed to terms with Mike Evans. That is not just another free agent pickup. That is a statement. That is a front office swing for the fences. After spending his entire career in Tampa Bay, after stacking Pro Bowls, monster seasons, touchdowns, and over 13,000 receiving yards, Evans is now tied to a team that clearly believes its championship window is still wide open, and this is where it gets real for the faithful. This is not just about adding a recognizable name. This changes the identity of the offense. With Brandon Ayuk expected to be on the way out, and with Juwan Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, and Skyway Moore all headed toward free agency, the wide receiver room was already staring at major turnover. Then boom, Mike Evans walks through the door. A huge target, a physical presence, a veteran who knows how to win at the highest level, a red zone nightmare. A guy who doesn't just catch passes. He changes how defenses line up before the snap even happens. Even in an injury-shortened 2025 season, Evans still flashed what he brings. And over the course of his career, he's been one of the most reliable producers in football. That matters. Because when January football hits and everything tightens up, you need dudes who can make ugly, contested, high-pressure plays. Evans is built for that kind of stage. But hold on. This is where the debate starts. Because excitement is one thing, fit is another. Mike Evans is not a young receiver just entering his prime. He's a proven star, yes, but he's also coming off an injury-shortened year, and this deal carries weight, real weight. That means the pressure on Kyle Shanahan just went through the roof. Evans can't be a flashy headline. He has to become a difference maker on third down, in the red zone, and in the biggest moments of the season. If he does, this offense gets meaner, tougher, and way more dangerous. If he doesn't, the conversation flips fast. Age, money, timing, all of it. And that is why this move feels so massive. It's not just talent, it's a declaration. The 49ers are telling the locker room, the conference, and the fans that they still see themselves as contenders, not rebuilders. But just as the fan base starts dreaming about what this offense could look like, the biggest cloud hanging over this roster crashes right back into the spotlight. Because this next story? This one hits the gut. For the second straight offseason, the 49ers are locked in a tense contract standoff with Trent Williams. And this isn't just some routine negotiation. This is the kind of situation that can shake the foundation of an entire team. Last year, the issue was guarantees. This time, it's the massive cap hit. Williams is carrying a number close to $40 million, and for a player entering his age 38 season, that is a brutal number for a team trying to stay elite while also getting younger and cheaper. Now let's be clear, Trent Williams is still Trent Williams. He's still playing at an elite level. He's still one of the best left tackles in football. He's still the kind of player who changes your whole offense just by being on the field. But the NFL is cold. It's ruthless. And when front offices start talking cap space, long-term flexibility, and roster age, even legends end up in uncomfortable situations. That's why reports saying the 49ers are open to exploring a trade if they can't get a new deal done feel like a thunderclap. Think about what that really means. This is not just a starter. This is the anchor of the offensive line. The blindside protector. The dude who makes life easier for everybody else. If Trent Williams is gone, you are not replacing a jersey. You are trying to replace a pillar, and that is where the fan base gets split right down the middle. One side looks at it cold-blooded. He's great, but the age and the money are scary, and the team has to think about the future. The other side looks at it emotionally, and honestly, understandably, and says, Are you really going to move one of the best tackles in football while you're still trying to win a Super Bowl? That's the tension. That's the pressure. Because if Williams leaves, the question gets loud immediately. Who steps in? Who protects the quarterback against the monsters coming off the edge in the NFC? Who takes over that kind of responsibility without the whole structure wobbling? And here's the twist. Even if the NY Ners want to trade him, that doesn't magically solve the problem. Any team that acquires Williams would likely have to work out the kind of contract that hasn't been solved in San Francisco yet. So this thing is messy, complicated, volatile. Maybe it gets fixed, maybe it blows up. But one thing is clear, this is not a minor offseason subplot. This is one of the biggest storylines hanging over the entire franchise. Then, just when the mood gets heavy, another name shows up and hits this fan base straight in the chest. Dre Greenlaw. Because sometimes a story is bigger than stats, contracts, or depth charts. Sometimes it's about identity, memory, brotherhood. Greenlaw was released by the Broncos, and the second that happened, a whole lot of 49ers fans started asking the same question. Could he come back home? From 2019 through 2023, Greenlaw and Fred Warner were one of the nastiest linebacker duos in football. Fast, violent, smart, instinctive. They set the tone. They brought attitude to the middle of that defense. And ever since Greenlaw went down with that torn Achilles in the Super Bowl, his absence has been impossible to ignore. That injury changed everything. Denver took a shot on him, hoping he'd bounce back. But after another year filled with injuries and only 8 games played, the Broncos decided to move on. So now the door is open. And this is where it gets emotional for the faithful. Because Greenlaw isn't just a former player. He's one of those guys fans still feel connected to. The energy, the edge, the way he flew around next to Warner, that stuff sticks with people. You can absolutely picture Fred Warner loving the idea of having his running mate back in the building. But the NFL never lets you live on emotion alone. The injury history is real. That's the giant warning sign hanging over this whole idea. Greenlaw is still only 28, and if healthy, he could absolutely help this defense. But that "if" is doing a lot of work. The front office has to decide whether the player they'd be bringing back is still the explosive tone setter from those great NY Ners defenses, or a risky gamble with too much wear and tear. Still, there is a scenario that makes sense. If the market cools because of the injuries, San Francisco could bring him back on a team-friendly deal, low financial risk, high emotional, and football upside. And if that happens, that defense instantly gets more interesting. And then comes the quiet move. The one that didn't dominate headlines but might matter a lot more than people think. The 49ers signed tackle Vederian Lowe to a 2-year deal. On the surface, it looks like a depth move. A practical signing. Nothing flashy. But in the middle of a contract war with Trent Williams, timing matters. Lowe is 26, has starting experience, and profiles as a useful swing tackle. He's not being brought in as some star replacement. Nobody's pretending that. But when a team adds a younger, cheaper tackle, while its franchise left tackle is stuck in limbo, people are going to read into it. And maybe they should. Maybe this is just smart roster insurance. Maybe it's simply depth for a long season. Or maybe it's the first quiet sign that the 49ers are preparing for a future where Trent Williams might not be in Santa Clara. That's why this offseason feels so intense. Because every move connects to another move. Mike Evans says all in. The Trent Williams drama screams uncertainty. The possibility of Greenlaw coming back brings heart, edge, and risk. And Vederian Lowe? He feels like the kind of under-the-radar piece that could end up telling us what the front office really believes. So now it comes down to this: 49ers faithful. Which one of these stories changes the future of this team the most? Is it the blockbuster weapon on offense? The nightmare scenario on the offensive line? The emotional reunion on defense? Or the quiet insurance policy that might signal a bigger plan? Drop your take in the comments. Share this with another die-hard NY Ners fan, and make sure you're subscribed, because if this offseason keeps moving like this, things in Santa Clara are only getting crazier from here.